Yo, what's up, gamers? So in this video, I'm going to be giving a guide on how I make my YouTube thumbnails so you can take your thumbnails to the next level. And if you've seen any of my thumbnails, they look complicated, but they're actually extremely easy to do. So I'm not here to waste your time, I'm here to give you real tips. So without further ado, let's start. So the first step is finding a background. Now, this actually depends. Basically, if you're trying to make a thumbnail in Photopea for a YouTube video, then I'd suggest the background of the thumbnail to always match your first shot of the video. So if your video is on a video, for example, Untitled Tag Game, and the first shot is like on this specific map in this specific position, just go back into Untitled Tag Game, into that map, and then go back to that exact same position where you were in the first shot, and try to match the first shot of the video as best you can. It really doesn't have to be perfect, but try to match it as best you can. And then when you feel like you're in a good position, just press Alt-1 on your keyboard, and it'll actually capture a screenshot, but without any of the UI, because Roblox likes to do that. It's not a full screenshot, like print screen, but it just takes a shot of just where you are in the game. Or if you're making a thumbnail for literally anything else, just search up some backgrounds. So here I've searched up rainforest and then the dimensions I want it to be in. And here I found this background. I think this one is pretty good. Credits to whoever made this. And then once you have your image, just right click and then copy image. And then when you're actually in Photopea, this is the URL. Just press new project and then make sure that the dimensions are 1280 and 720. And to make this easier, there should be a pre-made one here titled YouTube thumbnail. You can just press that. Just press it once and then create. And then here you're met with this. So I'll just assume that you already kind of know how to use Photopea. Then just press Ctrl V, and then you should have the image you copied earlier brought into Photopea. So first I have a strategy in order to make the background actually look good. And it's extremely simple. So first make sure you have the background selected, then go to image and then adjustments, hue/saturation, and then just play around with the saturation. Always make it go up higher for obvious reasons, because you don't want it to look like this. But never go all the way up, because sometimes if you do that, some brighter parts of the image are actually gonna create this thing called noise, and it's basically just like, it's kind of hard to explain what it looks like, but it kind of looks like TV static. You just don't want that in your image. Trust me, bro. You just don't. So do make the saturation higher, but don't make it too high. So personally, I think 50 looks good. You know, like we brought it from this to this. That's already an improvement. So personally, I think leaving it at 50 looks good. And then here in the same window, you can go to lightness and then make it just maybe a bit brighter. Obviously not this, because then it's just white. But I'd suggest upping it to about 10 if in this case, just so then there's a bit of extra brightness. So then we take it from this to this. I think that's good. And then once you've adjusted the settings the way you like, don't touch the hue. It just changes these colors, but I'm not trying to do that right now. So once you've adjusted saturation and lightness the way you want, just press OK, and then the changes will have applied. And then next, while the image is selected again, go into image, adjustments, and then go to this vibrance ... tab. And don't touch the saturation, just put the vibrance all the way up. And yeah, the vibrance just adds a ton of extra color and it just makes it look a lot better. So to give you an example, this is with the vibrance set at 0. So then the image went from this to this. So watch closely again. See, instant difference. And yeah, that's how you make the background of a thumbnail actually look good. So the next thing to do is ultra blur it. So in order to actually blur it, again, while you have the background selected, go to filter and then Gaussian blur, or like Gaussian blur. I don't know how to pronounce it, but select this blur, and then we can change the radius to however much we like. So usually I go to about 10 pixels, because again, we want to like ultra blur it. Maybe not really blur it, but just quite a bit. So I'd suggest keeping it at 10 pixels. Obviously, you don't want to go like, wow, but I would keep it to 10 pixels because that just looks good. So then once you change the radius to however much you like, just press OK. And next, we're going to add the 3D text. So first, just go down to this column here and then press this massive T for text. And then make sure you have the font set to Luckiest Guy, all right? Luckiest Guy is going to be the font that we use. Now, I'm not sure if Luckiest Guy font is actually already like pre-given to you, if that makes sense. Or I'm not sure if you actually have to download it or not. But basically, yeah. So just go to the font thing here and then find, and then just search up Luckiest Guy. And if you don't have it, then you can just download it from the internet and then install it and stuff. It's not that difficult. But so make sure when you're in the text, you have Luckiest Guy font selected. So now we'll just drag on the screen in order to get some text in here. And then you can make it say whatever you want. So basically just for the sake of the video's thumbnail, I'm just gonna make it say make for the first part. Also, if you want to add a bit of extra detail, I'd suggest writing each letter individually and then just Alt and drag to duplicate it, and then M, A, K, and then E. Now, the way you actually give it a bit more detail by writing each letter individually is you can just grab each letter and then rotate it just a bit, and then you can do this for each letter. So then each letter is slightly rotated, just to give it some extra detail. There we go. So when you have this, just select every single letter and then go to this little box here where you have all your layers, and then with all of the letters selected, right click and then merge layers. Keep in mind, when you do this, you can't change the letters anymore. Like, you can't change what the text says. So now once you have your first piece of text and each letter is merged together, just double click it, and then we're gonna add a color overlay. So you can make this color whatever you want. Right now I'm just gonna change it to a bit of a green color, just for the sake of the video, like the background is what I'm trying to say. So I'll change it to like a nice green color. And then in this layer style thing here, go all the way down to 3D text, or no, just 3D. And then make sure the angle is minus 90 degrees. And then change the distance to however much you want. I'll just change it to here. And then the shrink thing, basically it just gives it that more detail. Yeah, you can see it. So you can change this to however much you want. If you wanted to do all the way, you can make it like 20th Century Fox logo style. But personally, I find that to be a bit too much, so I changed it to about 15. And now for the color. So just click on the color, and then when you're in the color picker, when you actually go to the image, you should have like a little crosshair. And basically, this will be like a color picker. So wherever the crosshair is, that's what color will be picked. So then with your crosshair hovering over your whatever color your text is, just press that, and then the 3D will be the exact same color as the color text, but obviously this doesn't look good. So the way to make it look good is literally just keep it the exact same color, but then just make it darker. Yeah, that's literally it. Literally just make it darker, and then it looks good. So now once you have this, you can right click on the text layer and then convert to smart object. Keep in mind, when you do this, you can't edit the 3D anymore. It literally just goes away. So once you've converted it to a smart object, just double click the layer again in this tab, and then add inner glow, and then make sure the blend mode is at color dodge, and make sure the color is fully white, just plain white. And then the only thing to play around with here is the size. So again, you can change this to however much you like. So personally, I think this looks good. And this next thing, Satan, and no, we're not talking about the devil, but this is completely optional. It's just a little thing to darken the text to make it a bit easier to read. Yeah, if you use this or not, it really depends on your text color. So if it's like a really blue color or purple color, or like dark gray color or red color, or just any dark color, then there's really no reason to use this. But if it's a brighter color, like this bright green I have here, it's pretty good to use. Basically, just as you can see, it just darkens the text, and only the text, to make it a bit easier to read. So you can change it to whatever value you want. Personally, I think 20 is good here. And then just change the angle to 90 degrees, and then it just looks best. And then you can change the distance. So here, when you change the distance, it gets really weird. So I would suggest, obviously, just keeping it at 0 for convenience. And then size, when the distance is 0, it doesn't really make a difference. So just set it to however much you want, as long as the distance is 0. And the last setting you need to do is drop shadow. So this, well, just gives a shadow behind the text. So first change the opacity to 100, and then change the angle to 90 degrees, just so then the shadow matches the 3D. And then you can just mess around with the spread and distance size. So I think these are good. And then to make it a bit less shadowy, is just change the opacity to about 50 or so. Again, you can play around with this however you like, just so then it projects just a bit of a smaller shadow. And there it is. You have made your 3D text. So for me, this is the first bit of my text. I have to make one more. So in order to make another one, literally just do exactly what you did before. You can also change the colors to however you want during the making of the second one. Just make sure that the 3D color is slightly darker than the text color, like what we did in the first one. So you know what? I think we'll actually change this to like a bright orange color. why not, you know? Creativity is key in the thumbnail field, at least in my opinion. And the nice thing about making a second text here is that once you've like set the color and the 3D and then change it to a smart object, literally all you have to do is just check all of these, because we've already gone through them and edited them. So then whenever we check one of these layer styles that we've already used, it'll just check it to whatever we set it to last layer, if that makes sense. So then literally all we have to do for the last part is literally just check all of these. It's extremely easy. So hang on, you know what? I'll actually get rid of the Satan, because the like bright orange is still kind of a darker color, so I don't really need it. And that's the 3D text. So when you have your 3D text, you can just make them bigger or smaller, however you like. Personally, I think this looks good. Well, maybe I could even lower this thing onto the other text a bit, give it a bit of detail, and then the last step, just to make your life easy, just select both of them and then move them both up to where they're both in the center, and then you can make them both larger in order to cover most of the screen. Because again, if you're making a thumbnail for YouTube, always make your text extremely big, because on your screen they might be big, but for example on like a phone, the thumbnails are really not very big on the homepage on a phone. So always, just for convenience, and if you want to get more clicks, just make the text really big on your thumbnail. And then next is the realistic overlays. So the two ones I use are dust particle overlays and sunbeam overlays. So the way you actually get them is literally just searching up like sunbeam overlay vector black background, because soon, once we have our vectors, you'll discover that we don't actually need a vector to be fully transparent. Because when we do a little trick in Photopea, we can instantly make all the black become transparent. So literally, just keep on scrolling, like just find like a good search thing, and then also include the word vector and black background. Those are the two really important ones. So then once you found a good looking sunbeam overlay that you really like with a black background, then literally like you've already found it, and look no further. So I don't actually need to search for any, because I already have two that are really good, and they're right here. So when you have them and they go into, by the way, something I don't think I actually made clear, look for both sunbeam overlay and a dust particle overlay. I forgot to mention that. A dust particle overlay really helps for realism. So find both a good sunbeam overlay and a dust particle overlay. I think I forgot to make that clear. So once you have both overlays and you load them into Photopea, they might look something like this. But in order to make them actually transparent, just double click them, go to blend mode, and then the blend mode should be normal, just default. But then assuming it has a black background, just change it to screen, and then it'll magically become transparent. So yeah, I'm assuming when you change the blend mode to screen, it literally just erases all black, and it becomes fully transparent as a vector. So the first thing you should do with both of these is just play with the opacity to see what looks best. So it really depends on your thumbnail, like your background, your style, what you set these to. So I'm just gonna do this real quick for both the sunbeam overlay and the dust particle overlay. Okay, so I think this looks good for now. We're gonna do some extra stuff. So the second thing to do is test if the sunbeam and dust particle overlays look good over the text or below the text. So personally, for this, for the thumbnail, I'm going to put these two overlays behind the text. And so now we can play with this a bit more and see what looks good. So I think we'll make the dust very mild, and then make this quite a bit brighter. Actually, I think I'll keep it at like, I think I'll keep it at like 50. All right, I think that looks good. So now once you've decided whether or not both of your overlays are above or under the text, and you've changed the opacity of both of them, see if they look good, and you've just changed them to how you want them to look, one last thing I like to do for the cherry on top is select both of these, right click, and merge the layers together. And then once you merge them, it might look something like this. Don't worry, we can fix that. So once you've merged them, the two overlays should just become one single layer. So then double click that layer and just go into blend mode, and then just change it to screen again, and then it will be transparent again. So now the one last thing I like to do for the cherry on top is now play with this opacity in the combined layer. Because sometimes if there's some text really close to the sun overlay, or where the sun is strongest, and you end up setting the overlays opacity, specifically the sunbeams overlays, opacity to too strong, then the text might not end up looking as good. So always just merge the two layers together and then just play with that opacity as a whole, just to change it to the perfect amount. So I think this looks good. So now one last thing I like to do for the very cherry on top is I like to make my own little, God, what's it called? Like star shine or something like that? Like, hold up here. This is the thumbnail for my previous video. This is what I mean by like star shines, like this thing. So we're gonna make one of these and then just basically just add them to the text to give the text a bit of extra crisp, I guess. So back in the thumbnail we were working on, in order to get that star shine or whatever the heck it's called, in order to make one, basically go to this little thing or just press U, and then you should be in the shape mode. And then just go to this top left here and make sure you're in shape mode. Then just kind of zoom in a bit, and then just change this to however much you like. So I'd suggest look closely at the width and make sure that the width is an even number. Actually, you know what? I would suggest both of them to be nice round numbers. So let's just try this for experiment. Then just change the color to white, because of course. And then once you have a little spark that looks good, I mean, you actually won't know it looks good until you have the horizontal version. But anyway, in order to get the horizontal version, just Alt and drag and then Control Z to put it back in its place, and then just rotate it 90 degrees, and then you have your second spark thing. So personally, I think I want this to be a bit wider, so I'll just select it and then press this, and then literally just press the outer bar to go into this mode, I guess. And then make sure to press this little button to unlink these, so then you can just, you know, play around with the width and height individually. So I want this to be a bit wider, so I'll change it to like 125% on this one, then press the check mark, and then do the same thing here. But then keep in mind, the width and height depend on X and Y, not like the rotation of the thing. So if you try to do width again on here, then it wouldn't work. It would extend like this. Just keep that in mind. So this time, for the horizontal one, go to height, and then change that to 125%. So just keep on doing that until you find it looks good. And then just select both of them, and then go to this thing here, right click, and then merge layers. So then it's just one thing. And then double click the layer, and then just give it an outer glow. Then just change the opacity to 100. And then make sure the color is white, just fully white. And then the blend mode, some people like to do overlay. Personally, just for this spark, I don't really like to do overlay. I'll just go normal. And then you can change the size to however much you want. So I like to have it quite a nice centered color, so it's nice and narrow. So I think that's a bit too bright. I'll go back and actually change it to screen, because I think screen looked better. There's basically no difference. Okay. In that case, I'll change the opacity to a bit lower, just so it doesn't glow as much. And yeah, I think that looks good, right? So now once you have the shape and you've changed the glow to however much you'd like it to glow, just shrink. Make sure to press this button again to link the width and height again. Then just make the whole thing smaller and move it over to the text. So I like to make it fairly small, because it's just supposed to be like a little mini kind of shine, just to give it a bit of extra detail. So then usually if your text is like this, like with one text at the top and one text at the bottom, I like to position the spark at the top left for the bottom, and then the top right for the top one. That's just what I like to do. But you can do whatever the heck you want. All right, it's your thumbnail. And that's literally it. So once you have your thumbnail, just go to File, Save More, to storage, whatever you want. Boom, 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 boom. And yeah, that's how I make my YouTube thumbnails. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you guys get better thumbnails because of this. And if you do, please maybe give this video a like and subscribe. But if you don't want to do that, then please comment on this video saying that I helped you, because then I know that I'm actually helping you guys, and that'll actually motivate me to maybe make more of this content in the future, because I can give a lot more of this. So yeah, guys, see these two videos on screen right now? Go ahead and click one of those. I promise you'll love it. Once again, I hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.